Well, new emails appear to suggest that Donald Trump, the president, spent, this is an allegation which he firmly denies, spent hours with one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. The president, Donald Trump, has put on Truth Social, this is fake news designed to make him look bad, and so on and so forth, but also brings into sharp focus more and more news emerging of Andrew Mountbatten's Windsor's involvement in all of this, with in these emails paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, who's now of course dead, appearing to confirm that the famous photo of Virginia Giuffre with the then Prince Andrew is real, and claiming that several of his staff had their picture taken with the former Duke. So Andrew being sucked more and more into this, Congress demanding that he appears before them to talk about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and to find out what he knew about Jeffrey Epstein, because over there in America they're trying to look into the plight of the poor women that were used and abused by Jeffrey Epstein. And they believe that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, as he is now, could help. He's got until November the 20th to make his mind up, but looks as if he doesn't want to do it. But we understand he's under intense pressure to tell Congress what he knows. Let's talk to historian, royal expert, Rafe Heydel-Mankoo. Welcome, Rafe.
Always a pleasure, Kevin.
Well, look, let's get on to Trump in just a minute. Let's talk about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the Andrew formerly known as Prince. Now, last week, towards the end of last week, it emerged that the American Congress, US Congress, had requested for the former Prince to appear before them in terms of their inquiry into Epstein's evil web of tyranny for poor young women, sexual abuse. That's what they're talking about. They want Andrew to testify in terms of his relationship with Epstein, his obvious friendship with Epstein, but I think more than anything to testify about what he knew. They're trying to get to the truth about the extent of Epstein's evil web and the crimes he committed. Now, what is interesting about this is it was immediately put forward, oh no, Andrew won't go, which is bad in itself. But we understand now that members of the royal family are putting him under intense pressure to do his bit, to be honest with Congress and to talk about this, because certain members of the royal family, particularly Queen Camilla, are very committed to helping the victims of sexual abuse, particularly child sexual abuse. And they feel that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's failure to cooperate with this inquiry over in Washington will completely undermine the good work they try to do. So there's an interesting standoff going on in the royal family right now.
You're absolutely right, and one would hope that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor would see that perhaps he now has some opportunity to redeem himself ever so slightly in the public eye by actually cooperating with the authorities and telling them what he knows, helping to build that fuller picture that they try to develop with regards to what Epstein actually got up to. And as you say, it does still, despite everything that has befallen him, and despite the fact that he now lives in effective exile, he continues to cast a shadow over the work of the monarchy. As you say, the Queen is very, very involved in issues dealing with domestic abuse, sexual violence, all of those sorts of things. Very telling, of course, that Andrew never made any statements expressing any sympathy for the victims. Never once in all of this time has he done that, and yet their majesties did do that together in their last statement on this, the final paragraph. They expressed their sympathy. That, I think, was deliberately done to admonish Andrew as well. Look, there is no legal power that the American Congress has to compel Andrew to attend. I suspect Andrew thinks that it will be potentially hazardous for him to attend in America, certainly, because not only could he, he could be prosecuted for perjury if any part of his testimony was false, and his presence in America would open him up for investigation or arrest. But they've even offered him the ability to do it online via Zoom in some capacity. So he does have that option too. So I don't see how he can escape the. Well, if he does claim, if he is a gentleman and he likes to claim, as he has claimed in his BBC Newsnight interview, you would think he would go in for that.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, the Zoom option is at the heart of this. There's all sorts of problems that he could experience if he actually flies to Washington. But by Zoom, he has the opportunity to prove that there is still a scintilla of decency about him. Because they're not actually saying, come on, Andrew, we know you got up to no good. What they're saying is, we're trying to find out exactly what Epstein got up to, the extent of his evil web, because we know that many young women were sexually abused and used, and that this was a terrible, terrible thing. And there are obviously a lot of powerful men allegedly involved. So they're not necessarily saying, right, we're going to get you. They're saying, we just want to know what you know. So he's got this opportunity via Zoom to do the decent thing. And I think that's why he's under pressure from the rest of the royal family to say, for God's sake, do the decent thing. When you settled with Virginia Giuffre those years ago for 12 million quid, not to go to court, not to take you to court, accusing you of sexually abusing her on 3 different continents when she was 17 years old, when you refused, when you gave her that money, in that statement you said that you would step down from royal duties and also devote your time to trying to help the victims of sexual abuse. That has not happened at all. He's got the chance now, as I say, for once in his rotten life, to do the decent thing. That's what the Queen wants him to do. That's what his brother, the King, wants him to do. That's what Prince William wants him to do. I mean, do you think that just maybe he might see the light? I mean, he's indicating so far no, but he's got until November the 20th to decide. Intense pressure. How do you think it will play out?
Well, this is really the test of the man, I would say. When a man is stripped of all his honours, all his titles, everything else, he has nothing, no shred of dignity coming from outside. Everything now is about what he can present to the world of himself. And he should take inspiration from people like John Profumo. You remember the John Profumo scandal with Christine Keeler in the 60s. Nowhere near as terrible as these allegations, but he resigned from the cabinet over that sex scandal, and he lived the rest of his life doing good works and charity. Same thing with Jonathan Aitken, former Conservative minister who went to prison, but when he was released, devoted the rest of his time to the Christian church and religion and so forth. You know, it's at this point that you would hope he would see the light and have a Damascene conversion moment and turn his life to good works of some variety. He did commit himself to doing what he can to focus on the issues of sexual violence and the exploitation of women. Not one jot or tittle has he done towards any of that. This could be some way of doing that, particularly now because this latest release of Epstein files, we've already found out, of course, that he lied about when he broke off contact with Epstein. That was one of the reasons that he lost his dukedom and so forth. But now, with his latest revelations, there's a strong suggestion that he lied about not knowing Giuffre, because Epstein seems to confirm in these latest emails that have been released that the photograph was legitimate. Yes. Epstein says, yeah, Virginia Giuffre had her picture taken with the Duke, along with many other of my employees who also had a picture taken with the Duke. Now, has to be said, Epstein doesn't suggest anything untoward happened. And in those same emails, Prince Andrew to Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein also says, you know, I wasn't involved in any capacity. But and Epstein calls Giuffre a fraud and a liar. But he also says at one point, when the press are having their inquiry, Andrew reaches out to Epstein and says, how do you plan to respond to the press inquiry about Virginia Giuffre? And Epstein replies, I'm not sure how to respond. The only person she didn't have sex with was Elvis. He didn't say Elvis and you, he said Elvis. So
Unbelievable.
I think,
Yeah, I mean, he does have a chance to redeem himself here. I would really hope for his sake he does. He's got until November the 20th, but I wouldn't bet the house on him actually doing the decent thing for once in his rotten life. What about still with the Epstein files? More files released today suggesting that Donald Trump had a closer relationship with Jeffrey Epstein than he likes to make out. Alleging, the latest releases alleging that Donald Trump knew all about Epstein's illegal conduct. Now, on Truth Social today, his social media site, Trump has said, he's written, "The Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown," that's the government shutdown, and so many other subjects. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into that trap. The Democrats cost their blah, blah, blah. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anything else, and any Republicans involved should be focused only on opening up our country and fixing the massive damage caused by the Democrats. So once again, Rafe, he's basically saying that all attempts to connect him closely with Jeffrey Epstein, to in some way be complicit in some of his crimes, or to at least have known about some of his crimes. Worth stressing, by the way, Donald Trump has never got onto that Lolita Express private jet to go down to Pedo Island. But Donald Trump saying all these attempts to connect him, all these Epstein file revelations are fake news. I mean, what are your feelings about that?
well, it's very interesting. I think there's an argument on both sides here, actually. So so the Democrats released these emails, and curiously, they redacted the name of the victim that Donald Trump is supposed to have spent several hours with. So once those emails were released, Trump's side, the Republicans, they released the name. And who is the person that Donald Trump is supposed to have spent time with for hours? Mm-hmm. Virginia Giuffre. Now that actually speaks volumes, because why did the Democrats hide that name? Could it be because, of course, Virginia Giuffre in 2016 said that she was never abused by Donald Trump, that Donald Trump was not involved in any way with her whatsoever? Mm-hmm. That's why the Republicans exposed the name. So in a certain sense, that email actually exonerates Trump to a degree, because of all the potential people, we now have a statement from this person who is now unfortunately dead, so can no longer speak again about what happened there. And but as for it being a hoax, obviously the emails from Epstein suggest that Donald Trump certainly was present with some of these, well, one of these girls at least. But again, he's never been connected with anything untoward, anything of that variety whatsoever. Yes, Epstein does say that he knew about the girls, but the problem with these emails is Epstein has such a terrible way of writing emails, terrible shorthand, ungrammatical.
He does,
it's really difficult to know what he's meaning. We know, of course, that Epstein was stealing girls from Mar-a-Lago, and that's one of the reasons claimed for the fallout, was that Donald Trump was annoyed that Epstein was taking girls from his club and employing them himself. So Trump could easily say, oh no, he's referring to that fact. He knew, I knew about the fact he was taking girls from my place to his place. And there's nothing concrete. There's no smoking gun in any of this.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt Trump, as we're seeing in the pictures here, Trump knew Jeffrey Epstein. We know also he did actually badly fall out with him. And unlike some of these other powerful men, these rich and famous men that Epstein sucked into his web, the Donald Trump never got onto that private jet and flew down to Pedo Island. So, I think, while he's got some kind of connection, I think that he's probably got a case when he says this is the Democrats just trying to whip up bad press about me. I think that Donald Trump actually, I don't want to sound too credulous, but I do think Donald Trump actually is sort of the victim of a political campaign by his opponents in the Democrats.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that. Although at the same time, you do have the birthday book in which Donald
there
Trump
was that. Well, they said that was a hoax,
speaks
Rafe.
about your secrets, your little secrets, or whatever he said in those terms. So, I mean, it's such a confusing and perplexing situation. Nobody really, I suppose, will ever get to the truth unless some other tranche of information comes out at any point. Peter Mandelson as well, named in these emails too. Turns out he was still corresponding with Epstein 8 years after Epstein was sentenced for soliciting for prostitution. Epstein emailed him on his birthday. They had a whole exchange, and apparently Mandelson had told him to steer clear of Prince Andrew, of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, for his own sake. And Epstein says, yes, it was a good idea to steer clear of Andrew.
Indeed, and don't forget, Donald Trump does actually deny that he drew that picture and sent that message in Epstein's birthday book, says that's a fake news item as well, that's a hoax. Last question to you, Rafe, because you're an expert on these matters. We've stripped, or Britain and the King have successfully stripped Andrew of all his titles, his even his right to call himself Prince, because of his connection to Jeffrey Epstein, because of his continued close friendship with a convicted paedophile. Is it possible that we could strip Peter Mandelson of his peerage because of his continued close friendship with a convicted paedophile for the same reason? Can we do that?
Well, technically, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor still is the Duke of York. He's been stripped from the role of the peerage by the King, but in law, the King doesn't have the right to take away a peerage title because it's a form of property. It's called incorporeal hereditament. And the King is a long-standing part of British law. The King cannot deprive you of your property. So even though he's not allowed to use the title in any way, and he essentially doesn't have it, he actually still is. He's actually His Grace the Duke of York, if you want to be really technical about it, rather than His Royal Highness. And the same goes for Peter Mandelson. Only Parliament can take away a peerage title, be it a dukedom or be it this peerage title that of Lord or Baron, which Peter Mandelson has. And so it will just require Parliament essentially to pass legislation. Needn't take that long. It could be done in a few hours because presumably no one's going to object or vote against.
No, exactly right.
I would presume. So it could be done. And it's just a question of priorities, I suppose.
Rafe, fantastic to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Rafe Heydel-Mankoo.